I have two toddler sons. They're just like any other toddlers and are pretty self-absorbed. Currently, one adores cars and the other loves the color red. Toddler 1 won't play with anything but cars, and toddler 2 will only play with red toys. My mom hosted a party the other night, and one of my aunts came. She bought a bunch of gifts for all the kids. The older kids were respectful and accepted their gifts, but my sons glanced at the toys, noticed they weren't cars or red, and moved on to something else. After realizing that, she looked upset. I thanked her for the toys and joked about how unpredictable toddlers are, but she rolled her eyes and said, "That was rude." I told her they were toddlers, and she said, "So?" My kids knew how to say thank you by age 3. I told her they can say please and thank you, but they're still learning. She made a noise and said, "Learning to be rude." I told her she was being a little sensitive and that they were babies. They don't even understand the concepts of being rude or ungrateful. She got annoyed and said, "Fine then, don't expect any more presents after today," and that she hates entitled parents like me who are blinded by their children and think they can do no wrong. I said, whatever, and told her she could keep the gifts she bought for today, since my kids couldn't care less about them. She got all red in the face and said now she knew why the boys were so rude, but I just grabbed the kids and my husband and left. I was extremely angry, but now I'm just in disbelief. Who gets offended by a toddler? My mom says my aunt is very upset with me and is threatening to uninvite us from her Christmas dinner my aunt is hosting this year, unless I apologize and promise to raise my kids better. My mom thinks we're being ridiculous and I should just say sorry, but I said no. Am I the idiot? I just can't wrap my head around why she's so angry. Edit. First, to be more specific, the boys are young toddlers. Second, I feel I made this clear, but I apologized and thanked my aunt before anything else. The boys had already run off to their dad and were preoccupied with him by the time I got to my aunt. So dragging them over and trying to get a thank you out of them felt like a waste of time for all of us. I'm not saying she isn't allowed to feel hurt, but she didn't have to say anything about my kids. You are the idiot. I don't think it's so much that she's offended by toddlers, but by you just allowing them to be rude in her home and doing absolutely nothing about it, and instead making up excuses. As a parent, you should be trying to correct that behavior now, so it doesn't persist as they grow up. How hard could it have been to say X? Say thank you to your auntie for the presents, or something along those lines. What do we say? Would have also worked. I could go on. You should apologize. I think everyone's behavior left something to be desired, but your aunt was much, much worse. So I'll go not the idiot. She was 100% out of line for reacting so seriously to toddlers not having proper manners. Of course they don't. And making demands of you as a parent, i.e. the promise to raise your kids better, absolutely takes the cake. Extremely presumptuous and self-congratulatory. She should have kept her assessment of your sons or your parenting to herself, as it's frankly none of her business. My nephew at 3 just fundamentally didn't understand gifts. I gave him a bag to open. He got the soft toy out, looked at it for a moment with total ambivalence, then threw it behind him and started admiring the gift bag and saying, "Wow." We all just laughed because he's a toddler. He's 11 now, and I can assure OP he has excellent manners and always says thank you for gifts. To me, nothing's more impolite than an adult getting offended by the actions of anyone under 5 years old. Aunt got annoyed and said, "Fine, then don't expect any more presents after today," and that she hates entitled parents like me. She got so mad she basically said she hates you. Aunt adds, "Unless I apologize and promise to raise my kids better," and then wants you to debase yourself to soothe her wounded pride. Your kids are just starting to be verbal, and your aunt is flipping like this over lack of verbal expressions. She needs to get over herself. She should probably get assessed for some kind of personality disorder, because I can't understand why she would react so hostile to literal babies. Mini update. I sincerely believe there was no reason for her to get so angry, but I understand I was rude and will apologize. We won't be attending her Christmas party, though. Thanks for all the comments. I appreciate the nice ones with constructive criticism. I-25 female just got engaged to the love of my life, Ben, 30 male. We wanted to throw an engagement party and let our families get to know each other better. My sister, Avery, 31, the favorite among all family members our whole lives, came back home the week before the engagement party. She's been traveling worldwide, Southeast Asia, Africa, Middle East, as a physician, and has now opted for a change in her life. She's always had the spotlight. Even at my high school graduation, she wasn't even there. Everyone mentioned how amazing she was because we went to the same school and how I had followed in her footsteps. Wherever she goes, she makes everyone else disappear. Before the party, I told her how this party was important for both Ben and me. I asked her to, for once, let the day be about me. She agreed. During the party, everyone from my side of the family just briefly saw us and went to Avery to ask her about her adventures in Uganda or Yemen. In just half an hour, she had the whole family around her. I called her out and said she needed to try to not take the spotlight again. She said I was being ridiculous and that it wasn't her fault she had a life people wanted to know about. I told her she could either go back inside and keep a low profile for the rest of the night or leave the party and talk about herself as much as she pleased. She called me pathetic and jealous and left. My parents are mad at me and say I should have understood the situation and made a better judgment. Am I the idiot? I feel mixed on this one. For one, it's not Avery's fault that people are curious about her life. But on the other hand, you addressed this with her. You asked her to let your engagement party be about you, and she agreed. You wouldn't have cared if the same group of people had assembled around Aunt Maud to hear the thrilling story of her recent hip replacement. I think you are the idiot. If you wanted your sister to make herself small and silent, you shouldn't have invited her. OP's not the idiot. If she can manage to become a physician, she should also be able to divert attention away from herself. She ignored your request. She's the idiot. While your parents may undoubtedly be proud of her, they should be proud of both their daughters and understand your feelings. They're also the idiots here. This does not bode well for your wedding. Hi, Aunt Jane. Yes, I'm well. I would love to discuss my travels with you, but maybe another time. Tonight is about OP and Ben. How hard is it? And what's next? The older sister suddenly finds a guy who decides to propose to her during OP's wedding dinner? And when confronted, I would say, but I'm in town for a few days, and that's why my fiancé decided to propose to me, right now, in the presence of our family. The family members wouldn't see anything wrong with that either. I, 24 male, still live with my parents until my house is ready, but I don't live for free. My brother, 36 male, lived with his wife, and when she got pregnant, he had to work overseas for an indefinite period. Talking to my parents, they decided that my sister-in-law would stay with us so she wouldn't be alone during the pregnancy and labor. No parents are alive from her side. I don't have a close relationship with my sister-in-law. Last Thursday, my parents were out of town to run some errands, and I was at my job, 10 minutes from home. My sister-in-law is without a car. Things about my work. I'm a lawyer. Some months of the year, I have a jury as the leading lawyer. There's no prohibition on the use of cell phones, but I can't use them all the time in cases. And as the main lawyer in the case, there's no chance of me leaving in the middle. This happened last Thursday. My sister-in-law called my phone, so I hung up the call. She sent me several messages that demanded I go home as she was in labor and needed someone to take her. I said I was working and couldn't leave for the next hour, but she could call an Uber or ask a friend for help because I couldn't at the moment. She seemed irritated and replied, "Your nephew will be born. Your work can wait to help family." Me, "I'm sorry, but I'm busy and it can't wait." Her, "Don't you think your nephew's more important than this?" Me, without patience and needing to focus, Not right now. Ask someone else for help. I turned off the phone, and it took a whole day. My nephew is healthy, and my sister-in-law got a ride with a friend of hers who lives close, 15 minutes to home. My parents and brother are criticizing me for refusing to help her and choosing my service. And even though I say it was unfortunate because it was just the only day in 3 months that I couldn't help that she went into labor, it didn't do any good because they're saying that I showed my true colors and that it was clear that my work comes first. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Oh, the hypocrisy to accuse you of putting work first when the father of the kid clearly put his work before the birth of his child. Keep asking, where was the father? Where was the father? Every time they accuse you of putting your work first. Also, if sister-in-law is so close to labor, why did both parents have to run out of town errands? Seems like one should have stayed behind since you were working. Sure, I get why the family was upset initially, but it was a communal screw-up with zero contingency planning. That's on everyone. Well, everyone except OP. Seriously, if sister-in-law could repeatedly text and call OP, she could have called a friend or an Uber. Everyone made choices here. Sister-in-law and brother-in-law raw-dogged. Brother-in-law decided to work overseas. Parents left while sister-in-law was near her due date. Depending on how progressed the labor was, sister-in-law could have driven herself. This mess isn't OP's fault, and as far as we know, no one was in danger. What a crap show, and I'm sorry you're now the scapegoat. What a mess. Everyone's the idiot here, but sister-in-law. Jesus, your poor sister-in-law, married into a family with no one who gives a crap about family. Your brother's abroad, your parents are out, and the only family member she can reach doesn't know how to tell the court he's having a family emergency. As a fellow lawyer, OP, when your law degree is more important than your family, when it brings you to treat your own brother's pregnant wife in labor like this, it's time to check yourself for burnout because that's not normal. Unless you have some reason to hate your brother, this was really bad prioritizing. My 18 male mom was catfished. She had an emotional affair with and sent money to a scammer pretending to be a celebrity. The $8,000 she sent to him throughout being scammed was one thing, but what made Dad's decision to go through with divorce straightforward was the nauseating lovey-dovey messages between the two of them, including one where she told the scammer she was planning to leave us for him. Last night she came over and asked Dad for a second chance. She wants to be with us again. She said that she was sorry and that it was her fault. Dad was too stunned to say anything. He just stared at her incredulously when she said she wasn't in the wrong, then looked at me while struggling to find the words. So I jumped in. I reminded her that she promised the scammer that she would leave me and Dad for him, and that it's her fault we don't want anything to do with her. She said I can't blame her since she was manipulated, and it was like victim blaming. Not the idiot. She was swept up in an emotional affair with a celebrity, lost thousands of dollars that was no doubt half your dad's money, then was planning on leaving you both, regardless of it ending up being a catfish situation. In the end, she still did all these things. She made her bed. She can now sleep in it. Calling this victim blaming is an actual joke. Victim blaming is for stuff like getting mugged, wrong place, wrong time, etc. She had an emotional affair. Yes, she was a victim of theft and manipulation, but she either thought she was having a real emotional affair, or she sent the money and said that because why? No reason? Or to put it another way, she's the one who said the words she did. Whatever led up to them, you can't unring a bell. I'm sorry, I'm going to go to the bad place for laughing. I shouldn't laugh, but really, I'm curious about what she thought the celebrity needed $8,000 for. The number of middle-aged women from the middle of nowhere who were convinced that Johnny Depp is in love with them and needs their money is stunning. I don't feel bad for her. She said she was willing to leave her family. Well, she got her wish. My daughter is a few months old and breastfed. I'm vegan, my husband isn't, and our toddler is vegetarian/veganish. He doesn't like animal dairy but will ravish eggs. We don't cook meat in the home, although my husband eats it out of the home, and our toddler isn't a fan. Before anyone jumps on my butt, he's been introduced to it because his dad eats it. He just prefers fries. Same kid. Anyway, I took my daughter to my parents' house about a week ago. My mom is also vegan, so we ate our tofu and rice. My daughter has just started solids, so she's also going ham on my plate. My parents' dog ate more than I did. My younger sister, 15, had her friends over. They were having burgers or something and watching me with my daughter. After I ate, I nursed her, and one asked if I was vegan. I said yes. She got this weird kind of look and asked if my baby was going to be vegan. I just kind of shrugged because, she could be a dairy-hating fry fiend like her brother or a cheeseaholic like her daddy. Maybe, maybe not. My sister's friend nodded and spoke to me a little more before leaving. I thought it was a little odd but shrugged it off. Teens are weird creatures sometimes. Anyway, unbeknownst to me, this teen had decided I was a crazy vegan crunchy mom. There are a few TikTokers who are apparently stupid about their kids' safety and happen to be breastfeeding vegans. Like yours truly, I thought all was well. My sister sent me a link on the importance of a balanced diet for kids, among a few other bits, and eventually I called her. I was like, what the hell? And she started going on about how I was a bad mom. I told her to watch her mouth, and she blew up and said that I was the one with the crunchy vegan baby. So it turns out her friends are all convinced my children are terribly abused by my veganism, and because she'd never really seen my toddler eat meat, it was clearly true. I told her to calm down and explained my parenting, yada yada. She then got mad because all her friends thought I was a terrible mom and I should have been clearer and not just shrugged her friends' questions off because I should have known what they would have assumed I meant. I think she's being dramatic. They were worried, wires got crossed, and all is well. She's still acting like it's the worst thing in the world. So am I the idiot for making a mistake and having my sister's friends think I've got a crunchy vegan baby? Are you the idiot because of something that ignorant teenagers think about? Something they have no actual knowledge of? Let me think about that for a minute. No, not the idiot. Your baby can't be vegan. She's literally drinking mammal milk. Secondly, how you parent your children or what you feed them is none of their business. But she didn't explain to the ignorant teenagers in detail, so it's all OP's fault that her sister called her a bad mom. She owed these teenagers, the quintessential guardians of good parenting, a thorough explanation. And since she didn't give that detailed an explanation, the world is going to end. I remember being a teenager and having huge problems. My dad put a John Kerry sticker on the back of the car I sometimes drove, and it was so embarrassing. So I try to be sympathetic to teens and their huge problems. But sometimes it's just like, sweetie, this is only a huge problem to you. What do you want me to do? Because I couldn't care less what your teenage friends think of my parenting. Gotta love parenting advice from non-parents who observed you for 10 minutes. Such profound wisdom. To be fair, crunchy moms are actually anti-vax, anti-science, anti-healthcare, anti-doctor, pro-essential oils. If OP led these teens to believe she's a crunchy mom, I have no issues with their concern for OP's kids. Crunchy is not associated with veganism, as far as I know. Mini update. My husband was feeling petty, so he went and got ribs for lunch. He filmed the little lady eating her first rib. I can now firmly say she will not be a vegan, vegetarian, or anything of the sort. Happier than a kid on Christmas.